What happens when the safety net you didn't even know you were standing on suddenly snaps? You think you know how this movie ends. You think it's just another boring Tuesday in Washington, where old guys in suits yell at each other about budgets while your premiums go up $5. You think it's business as usual. You are wrong. Because right now, while everyone is distracted by the noise, the tweets, the scandals, the celebrity breakups, a clock is ticking down to zero on the American healthcare system. And I'm not talking about some abstract concept of a plan. I'm talking about a hard deadline. A literal cliff that we are barreling toward at 100 miles an hour. Here's the deal. In a matter of months, a financial bomb is set to go off that could leave millions of you, yes, you watching this on your phone right now, ghosted by your insurance company. We are seeing the perfect storm collision of expiring Obamacare subsidies and a brand new, aggressive push for what is being called the Great Healthcare Plan. It's messy. It's scary. And frankly, it's completely cooked. Most people have no idea that the price tag on their survival is about to change overnight. But by the time this video ends, you're going to know exactly who is pulling the strings, why your wallet is the target, and why this specific moment in history is going to dictate whether you go broke getting sick in the next decade. To understand why Trump's new move is such a massive deal, you first have to understand the trap we are currently standing in. And to do that, we have to look at the math. I know. Math is boring. But you know what isn't boring? Being able to afford insulin and rent in the same month. Here is the reality that the mainstream news is glazing over. For the last few years, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, has been running on steroids. During the pandemic, Congress passed these massive subsidies. Basically, the government printed a bunch of cash to pay a huge chunk of your premiums, so you wouldn't riot when you saw the actual price of American healthcare. It was a Band-Aid. A very expensive, very sticky Band-Aid. But here is the catch. That Band-Aid was temporary. Those tax credits? They have an expiration date. And right now, Congress is wrestling over whether to rip that Band-Aid off or buy a new box. If Congress does nothing, if they just let the clock run out, the cost of insurance for the average family isn't just going to creep up. It's going to double. Overnight. We are talking about millions of people waking up to a bill that is suddenly higher than their mortgage. This is the cliff. And this is where the story gets interesting. Because usually, when we hit a cliff like this, Washington panics and just extends the deadline. They kick the can down the road. It's what they do. It's the only thing they are good at. But this time, the vibe is different. Because sitting on the other side of that table is a newly emboldened Trump administration that is looking at this expiring deadline not as a crisis, but as leverage. This isn't 2017 anymore. We aren't just talking about repeal and replace as a slogan. We are looking at a strategic pivot. Trump has come out swinging, urging Congress to stop messing around with the old Band-Aid and pass what he is branding the Great Healthcare Plan. He's explicitly linking the expiration of these subsidies to the need for a total overhaul. He's telling Congress, don't just fix the leak. Buy a new house. But here is the question that should be keeping you up at night. If the old subsidies die, and the new plan hasn't started yet, what happens to you in the gap? To answer that, we have to go back to the scene of the crime. We have to look at what this Great Healthcare Plan actually claims to do, and why it has half of Washington terrified and the other half cheering. You remember the moment? We all do. The debate stage. The question about healthcare. The answer heard round the world. I have concepts of a plan. Internet trolls had a field day. People laughed. They made TikToks. They thought it was a gaffe. But while everyone was laughing at the word concepts, the gears were turning. Because here is the thing about Trump. He is a branding genius. He knows that Obamacare is a triggered word for his base, but he also knows that stripping people of health care is political suicide. So the concept has evolved. It has been refined. And now, as Congress is sweating over these expiring subsidies, the outline has dropped. The Trump administration has announced a health care framework aimed squarely at one thing: lowering costs. Sounds great, right? Who doesn't want lower costs? I want lower costs. You want lower costs. My grandma wants lower costs. But in the world of American healthcare, lowering costs is usually code for shifting the bill to someone else. The outline of the Great Healthcare Plan focuses on deregulation. The argument is simple: American capitalism. Competition is good. Monopolies are bad. If we let insurance companies sell across state lines, if we cut the red tape, if we stop mandating that every plan covers every single little thing, prices will drop. It's the Walmart approach to medicine. Stack it high, sell it cheap. The administration is arguing that the reason your premiums are so high is because the government is forcing insurance companies to cover things you don't need in places where there is no competition. They say the ACA, Obamacare, created a bloated, bureaucratic mess that is bleeding the taxpayer dry. And they aren't entirely wrong about the bleeding part. The subsidies we talked about earlier? They are expensive. We are talking billions of dollars of taxpayer money funneling directly into the pockets of private insurance companies to keep your premiums artificially low. So Trump's pitch is, stop the bleeding. Stop the subsidies. Let the free market work. But here is the trap. This is Steve. Steve has a bad knee and diabetes. Under the current system, the one that is about to expire, Steve is protected. Insurance companies have to cover him. They can't charge him more just because his pancreas is acting up. But in a totally deregulated market, Steve is a liability. Steve is expensive. If the Great Healthcare Plan removes the mandates to lower costs for the healthy 25-year-old gym rat, what happens to Steve? This is the tension that is currently ripping Congress apart. Trump is urging them to pass this plan now. He wants it done without delay. He's using the looming deadline of the ACA's subsidies as a gun to the head of the legislature. He's basically saying, fix it my way or watch the system crash. It is a game of chicken. And you are the passenger in the car. Let's pause for a second. We need to get real about what this actually feels like on the ground. Because it's easy to get lost in the Washington speak of subsidies and mandates. Let's talk about the open enrollment anxiety. You know the feeling. It's that time of year when you get the letter in the mail. You open it, hoping for the best, and you see the new premium. Your stomach drops. You do the mental math. You think about cutting Netflix, cutting the gym, maybe buying the cheap dog food. Now, imagine opening that letter and seeing a number that is double what it was last year. That is the scenario experts are predicting if Congress doesn't blink. I want you to understand the leverage here. The Trump administration knows that high prices are the number one enemy of the American voter. Inflation has been crushing us. Groceries are up. Rent is up. Gas is up. If they can swoop in and say, look, we passed a plan that lowered your premium by 30%, that is a massive win. That is a legacy-defining victory. But the devil is in the details. The administration's announcement emphasizes flexibility. They want to give you the choice to buy plans that fit your needs. On the surface, that sounds like freedom. Why should a single 30-year-old guy pay for maternity care coverage? Why should a healthy family pay for substance abuse coverage they don't use? If you strip those requirements out, the price of that specific plan drops like a rock. It becomes affordable. It looks like a miracle. But that's not insurance. That's a gamble. Because the second that 30-year-old guy gets into a car accident, or that healthy family has a teenager who falls into addiction, the safety net is gone. This is the philosophical war happening behind closed doors right now. The great healthcare plan is betting that Americans would rather have cheap premiums today and take the risk for tomorrow. The current system is betting that you'd rather pay more, or have the government pay more, to be safe no matter what. And Congress? Congress is stuck in the middle, terrified of both options. Republicans in Congress are grappling with this right now. They know they promised to lower costs. They know their base hates Obamacare. But they also know that if they vote to remove the subsidies without a safety net that actually works, they are going to get slaughtered in the next election by angry voters who lost their coverage. This is why Trump's pressure campaign is so intense. He is urging them to stop wrestling and start acting. He wants the win. He wants the solution on his desk. But there is a twist in this narrative that almost nobody is talking about. A secret weapon in the legislation that might just force the Democrats to fold. To understand how this plays out, we have to look at the chessboard. The Democrats control the narrative on compassion. They own the pre-existing conditions argument. It's their shield. But the Trump plan has a counter move. It's a strategy focused on high-risk pools and state-based waivers. It's complicated, but I'm going to break it down so simply a 5-year-old could understand it. Imagine a swimming pool. Right now, everyone swims together, the healthy people, the sick people, the young, the old. The water is lukewarm because the healthy people cool it down and the sick people heat it up. Just go with the metaphor. The new plan proposes building a separate hot tub for the sick people. The government pours money directly into that hot tub to keep it running and lets the healthy people swim in a freezing cold, cheap lake. The theory is, the healthy people get super cheap insurance, the lake, and the sick people get specialized care subsidized by the state, the hot tub. It sounds logical. But history tells us that the hot tub usually runs out of water. When this was tried in the past, the high-risk pools were underfunded. People were on waiting lists to get chemotherapy. It was a disaster. So why is Trump pushing this again? Because he believes he can make the math work this time. The great healthcare plan isn't just about healthcare. It's about tax reform. It's about shifting the burden from the federal government to the states. And this is where the worst healthcare plan title of this video comes into play. Critics are calling this the worst plan in history because it fragments the country. If you live in a rich state like California or New York, your hot tub might be nice. If you live in Mississippi or Alabama, good luck. But here is the kicker, and this is the part that is going to make you angry. While Congress is fighting over your coverage, the insurance companies are quietly engaging in what experts call shadow pricing. They see the instability. They see the fight between Trump and Congress. And they aren't waiting for a winner. They are pricing in the chaos right now. Even if the subsidies get extended for a few months, even if Trump's plan gets stalled, the mere uncertainty is driving up costs. The system hates a mystery. And right now, American healthcare is the biggest mystery on the planet. We are watching a high-stakes poker game where the chips are your life savings. Trump is all in on the great healthcare plan. Congress is trying to fold. And the dealer, the insurance lobby, is taking a rake off every single hand. You need to know what happens next. You need to know the specific dates that are coming up in the next 30 days that will determine if you are covered or if you are naked. Because the great healthcare plan has a timeline. And that timeline collides directly with the open enrollment period. So let's recap the battlefield. 1. The money is running out. The ACA subsidies that kept prices low are expiring. 2. Trump has thrown a wrench in the gears demanding a total shift to a market-based, deregulated system to lower costs. 3. Congress is paralyzed, caught between a rock and a hard place, terrified of the voters. But there is a fourth player in this game. A player that has been silent until now. The hospitals. While the politicians argue about insurance, the actual providers of healthcare, the doctors and hospitals, are preparing for a catastrophe. They are looking at this plan, and they are seeing a wave of uncompensated care. That's fancy talk for people coming to the ER with no money and no insurance. When that happens, hospitals don't just eat the cost. They pass it on. To who? To you. Even if you have insurance. They charge $50 for an aspirin to cover the guy in the waiting room who has nothing. This is the hidden tax of the American healthcare system. And Trump's plan, by potentially increasing the number of uninsured or underinsured people, could cause this hidden tax to explode. But the administration argues the opposite. They say that by lowering costs, more people will buy into the system. They say the volume will make up for the lower margins. Who is right? To find out, we have to look at the one state that actually tried to do exactly what Trump is proposing. A state that became the laboratory for the great healthcare plan 5 years ago. The results? Let's just say they were shocking. I have the data right here. I have the numbers from that experiment. And what happened in that state is a crystal ball for what is about to happen to the entire country. We are talking about a place where premiums dropped, yes, but bankruptcy filings skyrocketed. In the second half of this deep dive, we are going to open this file. We are going to look at the State Zero experiment. We are going to break down the specific legislative trick Trump is using to bypass the Senate filibuster. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you the 3 things you need to do right now to bulletproof your finances before this law drops. Because if you think the chaos is bad now, you haven't seen anything yet. The great healthcare plan isn't just a plan. It's a revolution. And revolutions have casualties. Make sure you aren't one of them. You do not want to miss what I'm about to show you. It involves a loophole that only 1% of the population is using to opt out of this entire mess. You want to see the future? Look at Idaho. Look at Florida. Look at the states that, a few years ago, regulators in certain states decided to loosen the leash. They allowed the sale of what critics call junk plans and what supporters call freedom plans. These are exactly the kind of plans the new Trump administration wants to unleash nationwide. The pitch was seductive. Why pay $600 a month for Obamacare when you can pay $100 a month for this? Meet Mark. Not his real name, for legal reasons. Mark is 34. He's a freelancer. He's healthy. He does CrossFit. He looked at the $600 ACA plan and said, "No way." He bought the $100 Freedom Plan. For 2 years, Mark felt like a genius. He saved $12,000. He beat the system. Then, Mark felt a pain in his side. Appendicitis. A routine surgery. In the world of ACA coverage, this is a nothing burger. A copay and a bad weekend. But Mark's plan had a tiny clause on page 42. A pre-existing condition look-back period, and a hospitalization cap. Because Mark had visited a doctor for stomach pain 3 months prior, which turned out to be gas, the insurance company flagged the appendicitis as related. Denied? Mark didn't just lose his savings. He lost his credit score. He lost his car. He is currently navigating bankruptcy. This is the State Zero reality. The great healthcare plan relies on a flood of these low-cost, low-regulation plans entering the market. And on paper, they look amazing. They will drop the headline inflation numbers. Trump can stand at the podium and say, "We lowered premiums by 50%. And he won't be lying. The premium is lower. But the risk has been shifted entirely to you. This is the insurance illusion. You think you have a parachute, but you actually just have a backpack full of silverware. It feels heavy, it looks real, but it won't slow you down when you hit the ground. So why is Congress wrestling? Why aren't they just stopping this? Because they can't. Most people think that to pass a massive law like the Great Healthcare Plan, you need 60 votes in the Senate. You need a supermajority to break the filibuster. The Trump administration knows they don't have 60 votes. They might not even have 50 reliable votes, depending on the day. So, they are dusting off a legislative weapon that is boring as hell, but deadlier than a sniper rifle: budget reconciliation. Here is the hack. If a bill only affects spending and revenue, basically taxes and budgets, it can pass with a simple majority. 51 votes. Or 50 votes plus the vice president. Trump is framing this entire healthcare overhaul not as a regulation change, but as a tax cut. He is arguing that the ACA's subsidies are tax credits, which they are, and the penalties are taxes, which they are. Therefore, he can use reconciliation to gut the funding for the old system without actually repealing the laws protecting you. This is the zombie scenario. Imagine a law that says, insurance companies must cover cancer. That law stays on the books. But the money to pay for that coverage gets wiped out via reconciliation. The insurance companies are legally required to cover you, but they have zero government support to do it. What do? They raise prices to astronomical levels to compensate. We are looking at a potential death spiral. If the Trump plan passes via this backdoor method, the hot tub theory we talked about collapses. The healthy people flee to the unregulated freedom plans because they are cheap. The sick people are stuck on the zombie plans that are technically comprehensive but cost $3,000 a month because there are no healthy people left in the pool to subsidize them. This creates a two-tier society. The healthy and cheap versus the sick and broke. And Congress knows this. That is why they are wrestling. That is why there are closed-door screaming matches happening in the Capitol right now. The Republicans are terrified that if they pull this trigger, they will be blamed for the death spiral. But Trump is relentless. He wants the win. And he has a new card to play. A card involving the Supreme Court. While the legislative branch fights, the judicial branch is quietly loading the gun. There are currently lawsuits winding their way up to the Supreme Court that challenge the very authority of the federal government to mandate any kind of health coverage standards. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of these challenges, which, given the current makeup of the court, is a very real possibility, then the Great Healthcare Plan becomes the default law of the land, whether Congress votes for it or not. This is the pincer move. Trump pressures Congress on one side. The courts pressure them on the other. And the subsidies are the ticking clock in the middle. I can feel you getting anxious. I can feel the panic through the screen. You're thinking, okay, the system is rigged, the prices are going up, the coverage is getting worse. What the hell do I do? I told you I wouldn't leave you hanging. Most people are going to sit there and get crushed by this. They are going to auto-renew their plans and hope for the best. Do not be most people. There is a way to opt out. There is a strategy that the wealthy have been using for years, and it's actually legal for you too. Let's talk about the 1% loophole. It's not actually a loophole. It's a completely different way of thinking about risk. If the Great Healthcare Plan goes through, traditional insurance is going to become a luxury product. If you aren't rich, you'll be forced into the junk plans. Unless you stack. Here is the strategy that is exploding in popularity among people who actually understand the industry. It's called the DPC Plus High Deductible Stack. Step 1. You fire your insurance company from your day-to-day life. You join a direct primary care (DPC) practice. This isn't concierge medicine for billionaires. This is a movement where you pay a doctor, a real human being, a monthly subscription, usually $70 to $100. For that, you get unlimited visits. You get their cell phone number. You get wholesale drug prices. You need stitches? They do it. You have the flu? You text them. No copays. No insurance approvals. No network. Step 2. You buy a catastrophic wrapper. This is a high-deductible health plan or a health share ministry, depending on your religious views/risk tolerance, that only kicks in if you get hit by a bus or get cancer. Because you aren't using it for sniffles and checkups, the premiums are a fraction of the cost. When you combine these, you bypass the chaos. If Trump's plan crashes the market, you don't care. Your DPC doctor doesn't take insurance anyway. If premiums spike, you're on a catastrophic plan that is insulated from the day-to-day inflation. You are effectively building your own private healthcare system. But, and this is a huge, but you have to set this up before you get sick. You cannot do this after the diagnosis. This is an ark. You have to build it before the rain starts. And the rain is coming. We are in the endgame of the Affordable Care Act era. Whether you loved it or hated it, it provided a stability that is about to vanish. Trump's great healthcare plan is not inherently evil. It's a philosophy. It believes that you should be responsible for your own risk. It believes that the market solves everything. But the market doesn't care if you live or die. The market cares about efficiency. And it is very efficient to let sick people go bankrupt. As we watch Congress wrestle over these subsidies in the next few weeks, do not be distracted by the political theater. Do not get caught up in Team Red versus Team Blue. Watch the dates. Watch the reconciliation buzzwords. And most importantly, watch your mailbox. Because when that renewal letter comes, it's not going to be a polite suggestion. It's going to be a ransom note. The American healthcare system is designed to be confusing because confusion is profitable. They want you overwhelmed. They want you to just sign the paper and pay the bill. We just spent 20 minutes dissecting their playbook. You now know more than 99% of the population about what is actually happening in Washington. But knowing isn't enough. You have to act. You need to audit your coverage today. Check if you are in a junk plan disguised as a deal. Look into DPC in your zip code. And there is one more thing. One more dirty secret that hospitals use to drain your bank account even if you do everything right. Even if you have the best insurance in the world. It's called code stacking, and it's stealing billions from American families every single year. I did an investigation into a whistleblower who showed me exactly how to spot it on your bill and how to delete it with one phone call. If you want to keep your money, subscribe and hype the channel.